Welcome to another episode of Consumer Protection and You with Ryan Lippe. Today we're going to be looking at laws protecting consumers, so stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Consumer Protection and You with Ryan Lippe. Ryan Lippe is a consumer educator with the State of Ohio Attorney General's Office in the Consumer Protection section. Today, we're going to be looking at different laws protecting consumers. You know, Ryan, recently we had the National Consumer Protection Week that celebrated ways in which consumers can best protect themselves against different sales aspects.
Absolutely. And National Consumer Protection Week is something that we partner with the Better Business Bureau and the Federal Trade Commission and the United States Postal Inspection Service, lots of Ohio Consumers Council, lots of partners are part of the public awareness effort that is the first full week of March every year. But even if it's not March right now, you can still learn about the consumer laws and protections that we have in the state of Ohio. Did you know that there's actually more than 25 consumer protection laws that are enforced primarily by the Ohio Attorney General's Consumer Protection section? So let's explore some of the benefits and protections in some of the laws you may not even know exist in our state. So what I want to do is I want to get onto our website, our public website at www.ohioattorneygeneral.gov. So we're at the front page now of ohioattorneygeneral.gov. That also brings me the opportunity to highlight a separate website that has only consumer protection information on it, www.ohioprotects.org. Combined, those two websites give you a lot of powerful information to help you better understand consumer protections and lots of other laws in the state of Ohio. So I'm on the front page. What I want to do is scroll down to the consumer button here. Under individuals and families, you see the word consumers on the left-hand side of your screen. So I'm going to click consumers. Then on the left, you'll see where it says laws protecting consumers. So all you got to do is click laws protecting consumers, and you get a whole host of information on the different laws. And each one of these different acts or laws actually goes to a brief description of what that act does. For example, we have something big that's on the screen right now is the Consumer Sales Practices Act. If I click on that, it lets me know that the act is from 1972. It still exists today, and it protects consumers from unfair, deceptive, or unconscionable acts in connection with the purchase or just the solicitation for a purchase that would be used for someone in someone's home or for their personal use. In other words, not necessarily a business transaction. It makes it illegal for sellers to misrepresent the nature of their business, their products, their services, the price, the terms of a transaction. Also, it does other things as well, like prohibits a seller from selling something that they know a consumer cannot afford, or if it's substantially, if they know they won't substantially benefit from the purchase. All of these are consumer protections within the Consumer Sales Practices Act. And after that act was passed in 1972, the following year in 1973, they added a whole bunch of rules that fall under that law. So the Ohio General Assembly passed the act, and then there were rules written to follow that law. So combined with the act and all the individual rules, you've got a lot of pages and a lot of different consumer protections that are given to consumers. For example, it requires sellers to honor their guarantees and their warranties and rain checks. It protects consumers from deceptive advertising. I mean, how would you like to go into a store? They say it's buy one, get one free, but they've really wrapped the price of both items into the price they say is such a deal. That's not got buy one, get one free. In fact, the Consumer Sales Practices Act also tells businesses when they can use the word free, what the word free means in Ohio law when it comes to buying and selling goods and services. It also prohibits sellers from taking advantage of a consumer's illiteracy or any mental or physical disabilities, or a consumer's inability to understand the terms of a sale. So as you can tell, it's a very broad and very deep law within the Consumer Sales Practices Act, pages and pages of good, solid, vital consumer protection laws. But I want to scroll down. I want to go back for a second. Look at all of these other consumer protection laws. If I go back and click on laws protecting consumers again, there are all these other acts beyond the Consumer Sales Practices Act. What do? That's why I want to talk about some of the lesser known consumer laws that are on the books. Now, a lot of us know about the Lemon Law, but did you know that's been in effect since 1987? And it primarily covers only newer automobiles. So the law covers problems that occur within the first year of purchase or the first 18,000 miles of the vehicle's life, whichever comes first. So the Lemon Law really doesn't even apply to a lot of those used vehicles that you're buying that may be as is with no warranty. And if you have a Lemon Law issue with a new car, you have to give the manufacturer or the dealer an opportunity to fix the problem. You can't just say, well, my seatbelt's broken, therefore I get a new car, a different car, or I want my money back. It's not necessarily that easy. You have to at least give them a chance to rectify the situation and resolve your problem. So let's take a look at some of the other laws and acts that are on the books still today that have been passed by the Ohio General Assembly for the benefit of consumers over the last 30, 40 years or so. Did you know, for example, that under the Hearing Aid Returns Act, if I click on that one here on the screen, the Hearing Aid Returns Act gives consumers 30 days to return hearing aids. And it also gives business a requirement to list the consumer's right to return on the receipt so that they understand their rights. That's been around since 1996. The Home Solicitation Sales Act has been around longer, since 1973. And it gives consumers 3 days to cancel any transaction of $25 or more that occurs in a location that's not the main location of the business. For example, if you go to a trade show or a home improvement expo or a senior fair or even the state fair, you know, the state fair is going to be alive and well in 2022. It's going to be reopened for the entire public. So the Home Solicitation Sales Act again requires sellers to give notice to you that you have a 3-day right to cancel for those types of transactions. It's sort of a cooling off period, and it's an opportunity. Let's say someone's going door to door to try to sell you a new roofing job or to sell you a tree trimming service. Unless it's somehow an emergency, they need to give you 3 days to find other estimates, sort of a good cooling off period for consumers, because there are scams. There are folks that need to be researched so that we uncover whether a business is legitimate or fraudulent. And that 3 days is crucial to helping consumers make the right educated choice. They can take those 3 days and go to the Better Business Bureau and find out the letter grade of the contractor that they're about to let into their home. Or they can contact the Ohio Attorney General's office and figure out whether that business has been sued by the AG's office, or whether consumers have had lots of complaints against that business recently. Those types of red flags are crucial, but the General Assembly realized that when someone's going door to door, it doesn't give consumers all that opportunity to do research and to do due diligence before hiring them. That is the essence of the 3-day right to cancel.
Since I live along the Ohio River, there are different businesses across the river in Kentucky. Does this apply to them also?
I certainly think it would, as long as the consumer's in Ohio and as long as the transaction, especially if the transaction is taking place over the phone or in your residence or in a trade show or an expo that is in the state of Ohio. But if you're an Ohioan, everybody doing business with us, even if it's on the internet, thousands of miles away, they still have to conform to Ohio laws for the most part when it comes to consumer protections. So it doesn't give them a free pass if they are in another country or if they're in another state. Doesn't give them a free pass to be unfair, deceptive, or unconscionable. And in fact, fortunately, all states have some consumer laws. Of course, I like to boast about Ohio's, but every law, every state does have some consumer protection laws. And so it's really important that a business learns as part of their expertise and as part of their sales practices and as part of their doing business in a state like Ohio. It's up to them to really understand through and through the types of laws, regulations, rights, and responsibilities that businesses and consumers have in our state. If you choose to be a big company, you might have to know all 50 states' rules and regulations, but you probably have a bigger budget and a bigger pocketbook, and to hire the lawyers and to hire the folks that need to make sure there's compliance internally with all of our consumer protection acts.
There are a lot of rules and regulations and laws. I'm not aware of all of the different laws. Am I required to go through each one of these and sort of study and do my best practices of learning all the laws? Or
well, it certainly doesn't hurt. I don't expect consumers to go to law school for 3 years, but it's important, and that's why we put little synopsises, little, a few sentences about each act or law right on our website, along with the section of the Ohio Revised Code or the Ohio Administrative Code. Gets into all the wording and the descriptions and what the legislative intent is of a certain act. It gives you the wording itself through the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Administrative Code. But a lot of times, fortunately, the Ohio General Assembly builds into the law a requirement to notify consumers. As I've mentioned with the some of the laws we've mentioned so far, sometimes they have to put it on a receipt. Sometimes they have to, like a refund policy, if they have one, they need to post that clear and conspicuously within the business or the online website. So there are certain rules and regulations to make sure consumers are educated and aware. But it doesn't hurt to know some of these types of little nuggets of good information and consumer protections before you start buying a lot of different items in life. For example, those who pay in advance for health spas, dance studios, diet centers, dating agencies, and martial arts schools are protected by a law from back in 1976 called the Prepaid Entertainment Contracts Act. And this law gives consumers 3 days, much like I've talked about previously, 3 days after their first services are available to cancel their contracts. So you have time to think it over, you have time to get a clear head, you have time to get maybe some other costs for competitors, and you have that cooling off period. And it also sets a 3-year time limit for the length of these contracts. So a health spa can't tell you or mandate that you sign up for a 10-year contract or fitness plan of some sort. The maximum is 3 years. So you can go back and revisit that decision 3 years or less down the road. Also, you have, since 2001, consumers have had an unconditional right to cancel a motor vehicle purchase if dealers do not deliver their titles within 40 days of the purchase. And I can tell you from being in the consumer protection section, that happens quite a bit. And although you can't always return a car because it has a problem you don't expect, especially if it's a used car, sold as is, sold with no warranty oftentimes, a title is sort of a carve-out provision. If you don't get your title within 40 days, you can get your money back. Contact the Ohio Attorney General's office if they give you a problem. There's actually something called the Title Defect Rescission Fund that actually funds all of the reimbursements that could happen to consumers. And then we go after the dealer and to pay back that fund for the money that was given out to the consumer. So it's a really unique way of handling a problem that exists in the car dealing industry that involves people not getting their title, which is really the document you need to prove that you own the car or truck. So if you don't have a title, do you really own the vehicle? You can't prove it. So that's why there's an unconditional right to cancel motor vehicle purchases if those dealers don't get you your title within 40 days.
So what about the individuals that you sell their car? They're not a dealership, but they sell their car. Are they also required to give the title?
Well, we certainly want to hear from consumers that have concerns like that. Again, without that title, you really don't own the vehicle, or it's hard to prove you own the vehicle. So that should come with the sale of any motor vehicle, is getting that title and having to go down to an agency in the state of Ohio, or a regulated agency that can hopefully effortlessly switch that title into your name. You have to spell out the mileage, highlight if there's any odometer problems. A lot of people have gone through the process of buying a used car from an individual and a dealer, and it's sort of different. With an individual, there seems to be some more steps, and you're amateurs, so you don't do it for a living. When you go to a dealer, it seems to be pretty streamlined, and they've got people on staff to handle each step of the buying process, including getting that title on time. But you never know when there might be a fly-by-night dealer, or when a dealer gets over their head and is all consumed with too many purchases at the same time. They still need to keep track and get customers that title, because you deserve that title as the proper owner of the vehicle.
Let's talk a little bit about another major expense, and that's insurance.
Sure.
Whether it's a car insurance, a home insurance, a liability insurance, are there any things that we as consumers need to be aware of?
Well, certainly insurance is a regulated industry, and we don't do a lot of that at the Ohio Attorney General's office, because there's an Ohio Department of Insurance that has its own toll-free help centers and things like that to help people out if you have a complaint about an insurance policy, whether it's a home, life, auto insurance, health insurance. The Department of Insurance is there at the ready to help consumers out. When it comes to extended warranties and extended service contracts, we are there to help consumers decipher what the what rights they have when it comes to those types of purchases, because a lot of times when you buy a vehicle, they try to talk you into add-on items. And one of those add-on items is usually what they might call an extended warranty. That's usually an extended service contract. Sometimes it's through the manufacturer, sometimes it's through the dealer, a lot of times it's through a third party. But you do have rights and responsibilities to learn about that service contract. And it's important that you go over it in detail before signing up for it, because it can be very costly to sign up for those extended service contracts. You're going to want to know what it pays, what it doesn't pay, what loopholes there might be where they might not pay for certain expenses related to major components of your vehicle. We also issue warnings a lot of times about extended service contracts, just so you know what you're getting into, what it covers, what it doesn't cover, find out how responsive that company's been to consumer claims, just like you would with any other insurance policy. I know if I'm shopping for auto insurance, I don't want to know just the sales process. I want to know a little bit about their claims. I want to know about their service after I buy the insurance, because sometimes you actually have to use it. I know insurance companies may not want us to use the insurance policy, but sometimes we need to, and that's what it's there for. It's supposed to be peace of mind. And so how are they going to deal with follow-ups and the claims that you may have in the future that you, of course, never expected to have to deal with?
So let's suppose that I'm an average consumer and I have a question on a specific law. How am I able to quickly search that? You have a lot of information here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's go back to that page, laws protecting consumers. Under every act that we list here, not only is there a brief description, but a lot of the state laws also have a citation underneath. And it's an Ohio, ORC stands for Ohio Revised Code. The OAC stands for the Ohio Administrative Code. Two big books that have lots of parts, lots of volumes. But the Ohio Revised Code has all of our laws in it. And the Ohio Administrative Code has all the regulations, all the laws that agencies and commissions pull together that are based on those laws and those codes and those acts. So you can click, for instance, on, let's go down here to the Gift Card Act. That's one of my favorite acts. The Gift Card Act makes it illegal for most gift cards to expire in less than 2 years from their issue date. Who wants to buy a gift card and have it expire in 30 days? Now, some cards are exempt. If you don't pay for the card, it's given to you as a gift or an incentive from a company. Some of those are exempt, but for the most part, gift cards don't expire in less than 2 years. In fact, a lot of the federal laws allow you 5 years to use most gift cards. But if you click on ORC 134961, this hyperlink right under the Gift Card Act from 2006, it gives you a lot more details. Let's click on it now. So then you get into the Ohio laws and administrative rules, and you find quickly out what people learn in law school, that there is a method and study of the law that lets a lawyer quickly, hopefully quickly reduce some of these code sections in the text that's decipherable by the average consumer, by you and me. I'm not a lawyer, I'm an educator. So I want to go to legal counsel sometimes and figure out what a law means if I think a company's violating it. Or I can go to the code section and, for educational purposes, at least look at what the law says and have a little bit of ammunition when you go to the company or you go to an attorney to try to get some additional assistance. So we're just giving you this information as the Ohio Attorney General's office for educational purposes only. We cannot be anyone's lawyer. We do our legal counsel for boards and commissions and state agencies and county prosecutors, but we in no way can be an attorney for individual consumers. When we go to court, we don't go to court on behalf of one consumer. We go to court on behalf of the entire public. So we are the Ohio Attorney General, not your legal counsel specifically, to give you guidance. So when we talk about laws and rules, it's only for educational purposes. We're not giving any legal advice. We're not allowed to do that to individual consumers. But you have the law at your fingertips with this laws protecting consumers part of our website. So you can find out what all the laws say verbatim based on what the legislature passed back in the 70s or 80s or 90s or 2000s, because there are still laws passed every year that deal with consumer protections. Sometimes it's revisions of current law. Sometimes it may be deleting current laws and adding different laws to keep up with time and technology. So I don't expect consumers to go to law school, but it's really helpful to be armed with some of the information, especially in the bullet points on ohioattorneygeneral.gov. So you'll have a little bit of ammunition. You have a little bit of sense of what your rights and laws are as an Ohio resident dealing with products and services every day.
So if I feel that I have a concern about a certain utility, do I need to look through the laws before I contact your office?
Not necessarily. If you have a problem with the utility, there's actually multiple avenues you can go through. First of all, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio is the regulatory authority for electric, natural gas, telephone, water, those types of services. Now, there are exceptions. There are city-owned utilities called municipal utility companies. There are rural cooperatives. Those are sort of exempt from PUCO regulatory authority. But if you're dealing with a big utility company like American Electric Power or Toledo Edison, Company First Energy, those types of companies, the PUCO is your resource if you have a complaint about those types of entities. A lot of times you can also complain to the Ohio Attorney General's office. We may need to steer you back to the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, the PUCO, because they are the regulatory authority and they do have a complaint handling process. But nothing stops you from calling the Ohio Attorney General, finding out if it's something that we can handle or if it's something that is within the expertise only of the PUCO. And having said that, there's another agency that you need to know about, the Office of the Ohio Consumers Council, and they are the residential consumer advocate specifically for utility issues. So they don't handle individual complaints through a toll-free number at this point, but they definitely are involved in cases where companies want rate hikes, or if they want a degradation in service quality, or if their track record becomes poor, the Ohio Consumers Council can step in on behalf of the consumer class, the residential consumer class, stand up and be part of that advocacy on behalf of residential consumers. So it's really up to the PUCO, though, to enforce all the rules and laws dealing with public utilities in the state of Ohio.
So let's look at some of the major information. First of all, your phone number is?
Our phone number is 800-282-0515. Again, it's 800-282-0515. And we've got two websites to write down. There's the big one that has all the sections information in it, and that's where we have the laws protecting consumers. That's www.ohioattorneygeneral.gov. ohioattorneygeneral.gov. Then we've got a little site that has lots of information. Really important consumer protections are highlighted on ohioprotects.org. That's ohioprotects.org. And the purpose of that site is to give you all the consumer protection information from the Ohio Attorney General's office. So at your fingertips will be information and videos about defending yourself against robocallers, information about how to report a scam, how to report a complaint against a business, how to sign up for our consumer advocate free newsletter that comes out every other month. All of that can be at your fingertips through ohioprotects.org.
We're talking with Ryan Lippe. Ryan Lippe is a consumer educator with the State of Ohio Attorney General's office, Dave Yost. Ryan, it's always a pleasure. Learned a lot today.